to another episode of
Sing that jingle.
The Infinite PC Podcast.
Infinite
PC,
Podcast
PC.
is not PC.
PC.
Let me get an intro. These guys are just talking some mad PC shit in the background that no one cares about. Watching this show, if you do, I apologize to you for caring about it. Let me jump into introductions. I've got my setup working again so I can do them properly. Blue, the sensible gamer, the introspective brain of the Infinite Podcast. She never slips unless it's a BJ Blazkowicz and is always once, twice, and three times a lady. Blue, how's your week been? How's things going?
There's a couple contradictory things in that whole thing.
Which is par for the course. Riskit. No joking.
Yeah.
Riskit.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's good to be back and feeling better and not sick from Thanksgiving food. Cause, oof, it was. We went out to eat, and the restaurant just
Great, bruh.
Yeah. Anyway, it's good. I'm playing Call of Duty. As of recording right now, I only have like one mission left, and I've been doing a lot of multiplayer this weekend because it's double XP. So I am Prestige 5, which is a lot, but not nearly. It's about halfway to Prestige Master, which is just a dumb thing that only COD players enjoy. But anyway, besides that, I've been playing a little bit of Stalker, and once I finish the campaign for Call of Duty, I'm really gonna get more deep into Stalker. I don't know what that face is.
You ain't finished the campaign yet?
No, I've been playing it very slowly. Like it takes me like 2.5 hours to get through each mission.
Oh, wait. The COD Queen has not finished the COD campaign?
I hear the skill issue.
What level are you in multiplayer? Have you finished the Easter eggs on either of the maps?
He ran away.
Things I've done is
Come on.
beat the campaign. And
Donte
sends
sends Instagram reels of reasons not to play Call of Duty. That's how he plays Call of Duty.
The PvP. But I play PvE. I play the zombies mode quite a bit. So.
Oh, you do? Oh, you should hit me up. I did both of these
You're never online, Holly. Well, I never see you online. Or if you are, you're hiding online.
Yeah.
Does
that.
Just
you're never. I never see you to be like, hey, let's see if Holly's gonna play.
Yeah. Well, haha, it's not me this time. Wait, what's he gonna do if? Wait.
You should
Wait, what's he gonna do if we both go
at the same time?
Double negative and nothing happens then?
Change it to a bong rip sound.
Anyway,
did you guys all just get drinks so that I could do the damn button? I feel like this is
specifically so you can do the button. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Holly has skill issues.
Podcast.
So I want to go back and work on Stalker again more because of the patches that they did. I think it sounds like there's a lot of quality of life improvements in the game. So I'm excited to go back and really kind of start hitting on that hard. Although Indiana Jones comes out a week from when this airs, so gotta get on it.
Yes, Indiana Jones, 9th of December. That is
that's close. Yeah.
Is it the 9th?
Yeah.
I thought it was the 13th.
No, it's 9th. 9th.
Oh,
9th of December, and there's an early access
have one of those
period
shitty
too.
early access things? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
I hate those.
Which I hate, man. It's so anti-consumer, but I get it.
Fuck them.
No, it's totally DLC that comes with it. That's if there's content, actual content, not just like skins, not just like an outfit. But if if you're paying the $30 upgrade and it comes with DLC content later on,
then okay. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm cool with that too. Like I did that for Starfield. But for me, the pre-release is the real release date. They're just delaying it for everyone else. That's how it feels for me. But anyway.
It does feel that way. Yeah, it does. Let's get into Donte, the objective gamer. The Infinite Podcast, very own Spock, the logical thinker in every conversation, whether we want it or not. I need to update that one because I think it needs to be.
It's kind of long. That's a long one. That's very long.
Welcome back.
Hey.
How's it? Very long.
Yeah. That's a long one. Yeah. Happy to be back. It's been a long couple days. But yeah, happy to be back. Was that because it said long? Is that what that was? I get it. No, I get it. I understand it. It's fine.
This trend has to stop.
I know. Damn it. We're okay. Let's get back on track. But yeah, just not looking forward to going to work tomorrow because I just want the day off. That's how I feel. So instead, I'm going to be happy to talk about some gaming stuff right now with you folks, and I'm hungover, so this is going to be interesting.
I feel you on the going back to work. I have to go into the office, which is worse than going to do what I normally do because, as you know, you got to do all the office stuff that you're doing. You know,
you got to do this.
Yeah.
Salute.
The salutate. Garuda, the frugal gamer, the PC Master Race mod king, a man who only moves at 60 FPS and no less, but sometimes more. Welcome back. It's been a while. How you been?
Thank you, brother. Yes, it has been quite a while. Life stuff and just all different types of scheduling things have meant that it's been quite a while. I have been better. I've been much better. I think I have COVID now. And of course I had that dislocated jaw and I had a heap of other things. I feel like shit, but unlike you guys,
how did you dislocate your jaw? Have you been did you give in to the cake?
Here we go.
Calm down.
Just knew wouldn't be able to escape that one.
Look, I left it out there. I would have been disappointed if you missed it. Okay. Look.
Yeah.
It's I've been better, but man, it's good to be back. It really is.
Does your jaw hurt still, or is it cool now?
A little bit, and every now and again.
Does it?
I've still got.
Or?
I've still got 2 weeks before I'm actually supposed to I can't really do it
can't eat a sub sandwich.
Open.
Yeah,
you got 2 weeks before I can, and then you left it open.
I need to choose. When I go shopping for bananas, I need to choose the small ones. The small bananas.
No bananas.
I can't get the big ones. So yeah, that sort of stuff. So it was the weirdest way I could ever imagine dislocating my jaw. Just jogging, like my jaw wouldn't close, and I forced it. Crack, man, hurt like hell. So it hurt worse when the guy cracked it back into place. Man, not good. Don't recommend that. But yeah.
Did you pay for that? Because I would have done it for free. Okay.
I got no doubt about it. So would many other people. But no. Seriously though, glad to be back. I have been playing games, not as many as I would like. I've been enjoying Stalker 2 when it works. That is a really beautiful broken game. I love the game. Yeah. It's just really.
So wait. So based on what you just said right now, I bet not hear the opposite when we get to one of these topics.
No. I'm going to. I'll explain myself. Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're giving Stalker 2 a pass.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not.
Okay. All right.
You'll see. I'm definitely not. But the game is so intriguing and so much more interesting than 99.9% of games that release today, just because it feels very much like something. Well, it feels like something from a bygone era.
Kind of enjoying it, right? It sounds like I'm enjoying.
Well, the game is good. It's just technically broken, right? Gotcha. You can't fix Horizon Forbidden West. It's going to be boring forever. Okay.
Are you mouse and key, or are you mouse and key or controller?
Controller. And I never had
the
much
stick
of it.
drift?
Very, very slightly. Only not when I'm actually aiming or aiming down sights or
That's
aiming
how That's how his jaw got dislocated. Stick drift.
Calm down. Stick drift. Fuck me. I should never have mentioned that. I'm never going to live it down, just like the cakes. Yeah, only when sprinting in a straight direction, I felt like the character drift off to one side just a little bit. Okay, but that only happened like once or twice. But it's you can see that the dead zones are just not there. There's no forgiveness. I think that's more of a design issue than anything, though, because everything about the game is not forgiving, right? So why would that be forgiving? So I'm not sure if they intentionally did that or not. I think they did that to make it harder, just like everything else is difficult in the game. So yeah, it's got the bones of a really fantastic product. It's just technically not there. Not like some of the other games that come out that are boring and sterile. No matter what you do to them, no matter how technically proficient and beautiful and flawless they are from a performance standpoint, they'll never be good games. This is the opposite. Just needs the work.
Like Cyberpunk, yeah, and Vampire Survivors.
No,
Agreed.
don't even. Do not. Sacrilege.
I'll introduce myself because I've got a little introduction. The Firebrand, the console purist. If I can't plug and play, there ain't no way. Welcome to the show, everyone in the chat. This is a pre-record this week. Next week, we will go back live again. Umbra didn't make it to the show. I do not know why. He's probably asleep. I did give him a call. He didn't wake up. I want to jump into the topics. The topics, I sort of feel like what I'm going to do from now on, or what we're going to do, is just cover a lot of the smaller topics that happen throughout the week that we don't always quite get to, and then maybe have some interesting conversations around those. So recently in the week, a few things have happened. Well, let's riff off the Stalker conversation while we're here, because I've had a chance to play a little bit of Stalker. Second patch has come out. I haven't touched it since. I haven't touched it for the second patch, but I was hugely disappointed. And there's sort of a lot around. Stalker is a very different game in its production, its development. Was done during war in some parts in a war zone. They lost members of the studio to that war, and I just wanted to make sure that we are obviously completely aware of that when we discuss this as well. So there's a slight difference to Stalker's development, I think, than many other games, but we do see this throughout the industry on a regular basis, and there's some more egregious examples than Stalker. But the conversation I wanted to have is, well, first of all, Stalker's released a patch, and there's 600 and something fixes, but there's still progression blocking bugs. So, for my first playthrough, and I wouldn't really even call it a playthrough, was very much how I played it at Gamescom, and I knew exactly what I was doing because I played it at Gamescom. So I headed straight to where I needed to head to, did all the stuffs, got to the first artifact, and it would not pop. Did not matter what I did. So I had to restart the game, and then it did pop. Now, that was on the Series S, and it was on the Series S, I must say, it is just don't play that game there. It is not for the Series S at this point. Shout out to them for putting it on the Series S. On the Series X, I don't feel it's even graphically even anywhere near as close to what we saw. And possibly on PC, if you have a PC, I would advise, because I don't have one, but I would advise you play it there, because that's probably the best graphical experience. But then when it comes to technical performance, the Series X has probably got the best technical performance at this point. So this game is broken on so many different levels. And progression blocking bugs are something that, for me, if I do have a progression blocking bug, then that's game over for me. I'll usually just stop playing, depending on how far I'm in. So I usually throw my toys out the cot and then just crack shits and never come back. And there's a lot of games that we've seen in recent times do this. If you go back to the start of the generation, we've got Cybertrash, Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red.
You stop that slander right now, sir. You stop that.
CD Projekt Red recently came out in an interview and said they want to be more careful about the marketing with everything that happened with Cyberpunk 2077. The egregiousness of that launch, it was purposeful. They did not give out console codes. Those codes were all given out to PC. And they didn't allow, I think the embargo was up until a few hours before the game. There was a lot of egregious things they purposely did to protect the launch of the game, and the launch of the game was technically terrible. Now on the Series X, it wasn't as bad as anywhere else once again. But on the PC, it was horrific. The PC was okay, sorry. But on the Xbox base consoles, which is where they also pitched the game, it was just not playable, not a playable game. And then if we go way, way back to the previous generation, an article came out this week talking about, No Man's Sky has finally reached a very positive rating on Steam. It's been 8 years since that game launched with a lot of promises, and it did not deliver initially on any of them. And I would argue it has delivered on them in the long run. However, I truly believe that we need to stop giving these games a pass. When games launch, that's usually the window in which I'll play them. So when I say this, I say it from a perspective of I very rarely will go back and then play that game through unless I haven't played it or haven't had an experience with it, and don't earmark it. And I've got a huge backlog. So if I don't earmark that game, I'm definitely going to go back and play it, and I won't. If there's an egregious launch like Cyberpunk, I don't play it on stance. I absolutely will not play games for stances if I believe something. If I believe the developer has done something that negatively affects its consumers, I don't feel like I should reward that with my money. I think that's ridiculous. I took Cyberpunk back and got a refund. I was one of those guys. So I think we need to take a stance as gamers. I completely understand that this is a bit of an ideological sort of stance, because realistically, what effect are we going to have, even if we were the biggest podcast on the planet? What effect are we going to have on gamers opening their wallets? And again, we can't tell people what to do with their money. However, for me personally, that's the stance I take. It is always good to see the redemption arc. And I know I've been monologuing for a while. It is always really good to see the redemption arc and games come back to form. You know, you've seen it with No Man's Sky. I think we'll see it with Stalker 2. We never saw it with Cyberpunk. Absolute trash. So I think we should stop. I feel like we should stop giving these games a pass. I don't know how we do that. If we protest online or protest with your wallets or whatever, but I think developers really need to take a really good look at themselves. I understand the length of development, costs, resources, all that sort of stuff. You got to launch at some point and get some money in the bank so you can, obviously make that game what it needs to be. But early access launches are ways to do stuff like this. You can early access a AAA. I don't think people have a problem with that. Baldur's Gate is a perfect example of this. It did have issues in Chapter 3, but overall the game is technically great. So I think there's ways developers can do this in not an egregious manner, get some money in the bank, and then get that development to where it needs to be without rorting their consumer, which is what I believe is happening. I'm going to jump to you, Garuda. How you feel? Oh, actually, no, I won't, because I feel like you're going to very much align with my view. So I want to get a dissenting opinion, which I feel like I might get from Holly.
What are you doing? You got to stick that up your nose?
So what exactly do you want me to respond to? Because,
all of that.
What were you doing?
It did not go up my nose. It's just, you like do that side thing,
Oh, okay.
Okay, Jerry.
Look good, right?
Okay.
Pick us, do we not bleed? No!
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I don't feel like this is a big conversation in the fact that I think everybody thinks it's a problem that games come out not finished, right? I don't see any issue with day one patches for things. Especially since we're in such a digital era now anyway. I don't feel like a day one patch is a big deal. I don't think anything launches perfect. There are games that are very close, right? But every game has a little bit of a bug here or there. And again, not everybody experiences the same bugs, because I played Cyberpunk at launch, and I had very little to no problems, and I played on the Series X. What went wrong with that game in particular is that it should have been a new gen console only launch, because it came out like 3 weeks after the new console. And it was a system seller. I do feel like Cyberpunk was a system seller. Everybody was waiting for that game. Everybody really wanted it. But they chose to make it a cross-gen game. And I understand why, right? Because there's a huge amount of people that weren't moving forward immediately. They're not, like early adopters for consoles is not always a thing. And they were trying to make sure that they were hitting everybody as much as possible. But they should have either said it's next gen only, or next gen only releases this time, and we will have the older gen console release a year from now, or we'll keep you posted or something like that, right? It's coming, but we can't give you an exact date. I think that was a way that they could have gotten around that. Cyberpunk is one of my favorite games of all time. Obviously, I got the chair, but but um I I don't mind a game that is like kind of sort of to Garuda's point about how good Stalker 2 is as a game. What I don't mind is the fact that they really, or what I think they should be, I don't know if it's credited for, it's kind of a dynamic for the fact that they didn't just stick it to the side and be like, well, that's fine, we'll just throw it to the corner and chalk that one up as a loss and move on, right? They really took the time and effort to work on it, to bring it up and even better than people expected, and then have a really, really good DLC, right? So in that, I think that is something to say, okay. Now, what I think should also happen with that is, a few years now that it's been a few years and now it's fine, now it's patched, now it's whole, perfectly whole, that it shouldn't be full price, right? Like it should be a game that is sold. Yes. It should be a game that's sold at a discount because it is an older game and you had to wait this long, right? To get it to a place where it should have been to begin with. But obviously, I think everybody thinks that this is a problem. I personally, I like early access for AA games and indie games. I don't want early access for AAA games. I feel like because the games are usually the ones that are like your Mission Impossibles, like your Michael Bay style movies, right? Like these are the big games that come out throughout the year and you've waited a while for them. They've been marketed like crazy. And there's an expectation for a AAA game with the budget that it has, the amount of staff working on it, that any access to that game before official launch is really just meant for journalists. It's meant for media content. It's meant to hype the game. AAA games, because of the status that they have, the funding that they have, the staff that they have, should be polished, should come out as a whole game at the launch. That's my
There's got to be caveats. It's got to be caveats to that, though. For you, this question, it's not me telling you that you must have caveats. You must have caveats.
But I was also going to make a point really fast. Wait, I was going to make a point really fast about when you said, this is your line, you don't want to cross it. You're voting with your wallet to not buy these games, et cetera, et cetera. I will say that I was just thinking, because it was making me laugh a little bit, that this sort of relates to this whole side, and I don't want to get into it, but this whole side conversation about Avowed, about pronouns, about all of the other things, right? In not just Avowed, but that whole sidebar conversation about all of that stuff. Like, that's your line. You don't want to put money into something if it's not finished, et cetera, et cetera. That's the exact same conversation for people who have an issue with that stuff, right? That's their line. So I don't, my only point is that, you can't value one thing and not let somebody else value something else, right? Or
I'm going to come back. I'll come back to that.
I don't want to open that can of worms because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
They were in the can.
But
you opened it.
It is.
I didn't open it.
But it's just the exact. Fuck off.
I didn't do it. You did it. I just, I go where the conversation takes us. But absolutely, I'll come back to that because I definitely want to get Donte's take on Stalker sort of overall, and Garuda's as well before we'll jump into that, because fuck it, let's talk about it. But let's
not talk about it.
Everyone's like, no. So what I was more saying is that there's for a game like Cyberpunk, right? Having an early access period to that, say for the first And you're talking about it's a massive city. There's a lot to do. It's an RPG. It's huge. It's not going to really spoil there. Say you have a prologue section, which you open up to early access. People pay, say, $30 to $40. You know what I mean?
That's
and then you
demo.
can have an upgrade.
That's just a demo.
No, not really. Because if you look at the size of Cyberpunk itself, could have been that's a decent chunk of prologue, right? So if you're buying the game already and you have faith in the game, but they've still got bugs and issues, opening that up to early access. And then I would argue that Baldur's Gate was AAA level as well. So I think, CRPGs, larger RPGs, there is an opportunity there to go into early access to ensure that you've got performance correct. Like I agree with you 100% on the, like, most games need to be polished, right? And those Michael Bay type sort of games, your Resident Evils, your CODs, you know what I mean? Having an early access for those is outside of the pale. But there is opportunities in some cases for them to do that. So that would be me adding that caveat personally. And I don't know if you feel that way about that, but I don't care because I want to move on to someone else because you'll probably disagree with me. No, I'm kidding. Wait. Look at that face. She's like, fuck.
Oh, bruh.
Yeah.
You must be able to feel that.
Take me off.
So do you feel like that's a caveat though? A little bit of a caveat? Do you think that works in some specific circumstances, or it's just AAA, no early access? Not happening?
I just think AAA shouldn't be in that space. Because part of the reason that people do it with indies and AA, right, is they're stress testing servers, they're stress testing the game, they're using you as the beta testers, right? Which is fine. It's great. But that's because they don't always have the budget to be able to do all of that internal work, right? So they're using you as the people to be able to do that, which is, again, fine when you're talking about that. But for a AAA, I just don't think it's it. That's me. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Look, I think in some circumstances, I'll go to a dissenting opinion to yours, Gabruda. How do you feel about Stalker releasing in the state that it's in? It very much felt like you were giving it a pass earlier on, Fraud. Looking 8 years previously, we had No Man's Sky with all these promises that never really sort of came to fruition. And then, more recently, after that, we're looking at CD Projekt Reds. But there's all nuance between these because they're all slightly different. But the two that really did promise the world, I would say, is No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk promised the world and delivered. It wasn't just the performance as well for me. It's going to be the lived-in city. It's going to level up that sort of GTA 5 sort of feeling. And then you looked at the AI. Police spawning behind you out of absolutely nowhere. There was a lot of things in that game that just didn't deliver on the promise. And I, as a person, as a human being, when I'm at work or if I'm trying to pitch an idea to someone, I will undersell that bad boy and over deliver every time because it makes me look good, and that will make your studio look good. But how are you feeling about these the industry and the way it's going with just sort of releasing and treating people like beta testers at full price?
This conversation or this topic is like multifaceted to an extreme degree, but because every game and the fact that it may or may not be broken and the issues it has, they can stem from multiple different areas and issues that cause it to have those problems. So not every game has the same problems, but generally I will say, yeah, I despise the amount of broken or poorly performing games at launch. And this is just the first part of this, but it's the reason why I'm the frugal gamer, and it's the reason why I don't have FOMO. I've trained myself that way because most of these major publishers, and I'm going to say publishers, not developers, but they've more or less trained a lot of the consumers to be the way I am. Wait for a sale, wait for updates, wait for the game to be complete, wait for the game to be not broken anymore, patches, fixed, all these kind of things. Because 9 times out of 10, if it's a single player game, as a consumer or a gamer, you're going to have a more optimal experience by waiting than you are if you play it on day one. The only thing that hurts you is the FOMO, maybe, but I don't have that. And The other thing is the possibility that you might be exposed to spoilers, which if you're not like a small percentage of gamers like us and on social media, you're probably not going to get spoilers anyway. So you're almost always better off waiting, and that sucks. That you know, for people like me who do a gaming podcast, sometimes I'm not in the zeitgeist of playing a game, because if I load it up and it has a bunch of issues, that's not worth my time. I want to go and play something that is worth my time because it's being respected by not having crashes and issues and so on, right? That's the first thing. I really don't like that. That's why I wait. Many great games that I play, I'll rave about how great they are. And guys like yourselves or other people in different circles will say, well, you're just playing that now? And I'm like, yeah, this is why. Because now it has all the DLC, or now it has all the bugs fixed, and now it's the best time to play it. So I win, right? But here's the thing about that. It's in the case of the two particular games we were talking about, Stalker 2 and Cyberpunk, both were, you know, highly anticipated, very ambitious, large scope kind of games. They're always going to be prone to issues. Like even Bethesda and all these big open world RPG developers, the bigger the game is like that, the more interactions and dialogues and things like that, the more room for bugs. But it's not a pass, right? In the case of Cyberpunk, it's very different to Stalker 2. Cyberpunk, CDPR, the developers.
Where'd everybody go? Just us. What happened?
I think maybe I'm boring.
People.
What actually happened? Can you guys hear us?
I can hear you. I know Riskit said he'll be right back though, so he did step away.
Going. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
keep going.
I think in the case of Cyberpunk, I think if you look at some of the development cycle that you can read about it, it was a publisher pressure thing. I don't think CDPR developers wanted to release the game at the time they did, and I think internally they had a ton of pressure to get it out when they did. You know, the last generation version obviously being a total mess. I don't think too much time could have done a lot for the game on those old systems, because it was way too ambitious for that hardware. But they were torn, because I'm sure the developers would have liked to have left those old platforms behind in hopes that the game would be received better. But how can you do that when there's multiple millions and millions of people install base on those old systems? You can't just leave it behind, especially when the current systems had only launched 3 weeks before. And then what, you're just going to rely on PC sales? So they had to release those old versions. No amount of time was ever going to fix them, because they really shouldn't have been there in the first place. So I actually feel for CD Projekt Red developers in that situation. It was bad timing, publisher pressure. There was a lot of issues. I think they have to be commended for the turnaround. I didn't play the game because of the bugs and still haven't. I'm waiting to upgrade my PC and stuff, but I commend them for turning it all around. But the issue there was they didn't turn it around on last generation systems, because like I said, the overhead and the performance was never going to be there for them to improve those. Once they focused on the systems and the platforms that they should have been focusing on, the turnaround was relatively simple. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles and PC, which is what all the new content for Cyberpunk is fantastic. Once you remove the last gen stuff from the picture, so that's what that is. That was a unique situation. As for Stalker 2, if anyone's played, I haven't played them a lot, but if anyone's played the old Stalker games, they are more renowned for bugs than Bethesda games. That's just the way they were. They're a small studio. They're trying to do a lot with a little. It's not an excuse, but it's people in the hardcore Stalker community were fully expecting bugs, glitches, and the like. Maybe not to this extent, but it was fully expected. It's most people coming in as because of Game Pass. For a lot of people, this is their first Stalker game, so no one was really ready for what we actually got. And yeah, it is a downgrade visually compared to what they showed on all of the pre-release trailers and videos.
First saw the original trailers. Yeah.
But here's the caveat: it's a downgrade visually on console. If you're playing it on a high-end PC maxed out, like I play it maxed out, everything turned up, it looks as good. It does. It is absolutely one of the best-looking games, atmospherically, just from a graphical fidelity standpoint, ever. ever, right? It looks as good as the trailers do, but but Stalker has, this is what you need to remember, is Stalker has always been a PC-centric game. It only just came to consoles. The old ones only just came to consoles recently. And the modding community, very much like Bethesda, the modding community is what kept these games alive and really elevated them to the next level. There's mods that just completely change everything about the game, and that's why they're still played to this day. So I think there was just a little bit of a perception thing from people coming into this, that it was of what it was going to be. Now, I don't excuse all the bugs and glitches. And here's the thing. That's all the things that I do excuse and that I do understand. Okay, it's a PC game, all that stuff, right? Here's what I don't excuse. If you follow the hardcore Stalker community, this is what they're all disappointed about. It's not the bugs and glitches that we know will be fixed, right? It's the AI system. One of the reasons why, I don't want to be boring, but one of the main reasons why people love Stalker, the 4 previous games or so that are in the series, is because of the AI system. It's so unique compared to every other game. It's very advanced compared to a lot of other games, and it's called A-Life. That's what they call it. And essentially what it does is it allows the sort of NPCs and the enemies and everything in the game world, in the zone, to exist outside of the player. So they have their own set kind of movements. They react based on you and based on each other, and they don't have to be in your line of sight to exist. They are doing their own thing in a way that you can interact with them, and it will set off a chain of events based on that.
That was one of the things that Cyberpunk had promised.
Yeah, with the police system and stuff, which they did fix now,
and thousands of NPCs basically having like their own tasks that they'll be doing.
And it showed that on the videos. On Cyberpunk, it showed them walking everywhere and doing all this, and it looked amazing. And then on day one, it wasn't. But they've got it almost to there. Now, this A-Life thing with Stalker right now, it essentially is either, there's a huge debate in the community. It's either not there or broken. Now, GSC Game World have been boasting constantly that this is A-Life 2.0. It's going to be like the old one, but upgraded, all this kind of stuff. Now, essentially, no, that I think people have hacked into the source code. They've found out that it's essentially either not there or broken. That's why enemies just spawn behind you. They're not existing in the world. That's why there's no binoculars. Like in the old Stalkers, you had binoculars. You could zoom in as far as you wanted, and you could see all of this A-Life stuff just happening around you, like other NPCs, other monsters doing their own thing. It's not there in Stalker 2. Now, GSC have said, we know it's broken. We know it's broken. We're going to fix it. But where is it? Like, it's a huge part of the game, right? It's one of the things, it's the part of the game that's one of the most beloved things, right? So that's the hardcore community's upset because of that. The people who are new to Stalker are upset because of all the bugs, and that just creates a huge mess. And it's a game that's just not well received. Now, this is another game that is just going to be much better off played down the line, and this is why. Going back to how I started this is why I don't play games generally at launch. Not just because they're way overpriced, like Metaphor, $120 in this country, which is my type of game. I can't wait to play it. I'm not paying $120 for a game. But if I do pay $120 for a game, imagine if I paid $120 for Stalker 2 or Cyberpunk when it launched. Can you imagine that? You would be like just disgusted. So this is why I'm like I am. I don't excuse it, but those are the two situations there. There's a lot of nuance to each individual situation. But Stalker 2, the only way I'm still playing it is because of modders. Modders have already fixed a bunch of the issues that GSC could have fixed. Optimization issues, the ability to mantle, all these different quality of life issues modders have fixed, but they can't fix. It's just frustrating, man. So yeah, I don't like broken games, and that's why I play later. And I have a better experience because of it. So if I was you guys, this is just advice to anyone listening. If you can avoid FOMO, what will happen is a few things. You will get the game at a vastly reduced price. You will have it feature complete. All the DLC will come with it when you buy it. Everything will be fixed, and you'll have a better experience later on. And that's why I do that. But that doesn't help the publisher and the developer. So they need to work it out. So what they do is on PC, they go, all right, how about we go into early access so that we can, because you can have 100 internal testers, but they're never going to find as many bugs or issues as 5 or 10,000 people playing early access. So I get that. Okay. So that's what they do. They put it into early access. The players essentially are working for free, and they squash these bugs. But it's a hard one, man, because once the product has been received to the public, it's been rated, it's hard to come back from. Okay. It's very hard to turn it all around. I think they've got to release in a better state, because I'm not spending that money because I'm gun shy because of all the issues, right? And I'm sure I'm not alone. People are really, they don't want to, they know like 8 out of 10 games, they have these issues at launch. So it's a tough one, man. It really is. What I'm saying is I don't know the actual answer to it, but that's why I don't play at launch.
So,
Riskit, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Temper. I'd say all that's extremely reasonable, but I would just temper that the sort of Stalker 2 issues is that they developed that game whilst in a war for the most part, and shifting studios and all sorts of stuff. So there was a lot of challenges.
Let me say what I said at the start. Absolutely. The game, it's going to be incredible. Like, it is an incredible game, right? You can't... The problems that Stalker 2 has, they are fixable. They're just performance and bugs and glitches. They're not game design issues. They're not atmosphere or anything or fundamental issues. They're just performance issues, right? Just get those sorted out, and the game will be absolutely incredible, just like Cyberpunk is right now. So those games are fixable. Games like Horizon Forbidden West, where it's just batshit boring. It doesn't matter how pretty it is. Doesn't matter how optimally perfect it is to play from a performance standpoint. You can't fix boring. You can't fix just a yawn-inducing cookie cutter bullshit Ubisoft open world quality kind of game. You can't fix that. So I would rather games like Cyberpunk and Stalker 2 that are really ambitious and pushing the envelope a little bit have a few bugs and glitches at launch and fix them later than come out as another by the numbers game that we've seen and done before. That's my stance.
All right, so I'm having a little bit of a different take on this, fellas. Sorry, no,
that's
shocker.
Good. That's what we want.
This one.
That's what we want.
All right, but I'm gonna try to look at this holistically, right? Because when I think about this topic of like games being broken, like yes, there's been some outliers of some games that promised some stuff that they didn't deliver on. No Man's Sky comes to mind, obviously, and obviously the aforementioned Cyberpunk, right? But when we talk about like broken, to me, it means the game is unplayable, meaning I can't do certain things. I can't play. It keeps crashing on me, things of that particular nature. Which Cyberpunk initially had some weird graphical issues when you especially go into certain areas where it starts slowing stuff down and was a little bit weird at first, but like was able to still play the game. They probably missed out on overpromising on some of the things that they wanted the game to do, but I don't think the game, well, for some platforms, it was probably broken. And so that needs to be addressed. And I think most developers want to do that. But overall, like, I'm trying to think of, is this a really consistent theme where games are launching broken? And I just don't feel that it really is. I'm going to think about just this year alone in terms of games that I've played that basically have been working out the box and I've had little issues with them whatsoever. One being very big, being COD. It played flawlessly for me. Large, huge AAA budget game. Played, had no issues with it, went through the campaign, even zombies, never had a crash or anything like that. So that's one that they got their stuff to, well, I mean, they're usually pretty consistent anyway. Thinking about some of the stuff I played in Game Pass, like what's the game, Flintlock, like didn't have any issues with that. No crashes, it worked. Flawless. Dragon Age Veilguard, had no issues with it, no crashes, no weird graphical bugs or anything like that I recognize. It worked. So like if I'm looking at like releases that we've been seeing over the period of the last year or two or whatever, and we can only come up with like a few games here and there. Like, yeah, like overall, of course, we don't want games to have to launch in those states, but there's other factors that probably are into that, like you mentioned before, for publishing, right? Certain companies have a thing where a publisher's like, you don't have more time. right? You got to hit this deadline. You can patch stuff after the fact, but we got to hit this deadline. We can't extend it any further. And that's not on the studio, right? If the studio knows that they got something that they need to cook a little bit longer and they can't, they just have to basically do what needs to be done to get the product out, unfortunately. So sometimes that's that scenario where a studio, doesn't have any choice but to put the game in front of the players and try to fix it after the fact. But I'm trying to look at, is there a larger issue here? And I would say, over the last couple of years, it seems like they've been getting a little bit better with getting products out that, for the most part, have been running rather well. Stalker's a unique situation because, like we mentioned before, they're in a really tough situation. They're literally in a war, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to develop a game. So we're going to give them some grace in the past. But other large games that I've seen that have come out recently, what's the ones that we've seen that have been broken for the last couple of years that really stand out to us?
What sort of large games are we talking about though? Because
but that's years ago. Cyberpunk is how many years old now?
Basically, Starfield was fucked. Starfield was unplayable on PC.
Starfield worked perfectly fine for me.
Oh.
On Xbox, I didn't have no issues with it. I didn't have any crazy crashes.
It depends what you say, but it depends how you define broken or not ready or finished or buggy.
Broken means it's not playable or it's missing out on stuff that they said it was going to have.
I don't mean just broken though.
To me, I don't think that's broken either. To me, it's not playable. Constantly crashing.
I mean broken is for me, not just crashes. It's missing features it should have, bugs and glitches that it shouldn't have. Do you know what I mean? I know my standards are a little bit more unreasonable than some, but for me, the fact that Starfield launched at 30 FPS on Series X and then 60 FPS come later, the game wasn't feature complete. That ruined it for me.
That's a different scenario then. And that's wanting games to be more feature complete for stuff that they add in 6 months to a year down the road. Okay, cool. You won't hear no arguments from me there. But to me, broken means either this game's shit or this game's a graphical.
Oh yeah, and you have quest locking and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, things like that. Things are breaking, quests are breaking, the game keeps crashing, weird graphical issues. To me, that's a broken game, right? Where it's almost
Stalker
unplayable.
2 right now.
Other stuff is just if it's quality of life or you added a feature that you wish would have been there at launch, that's not broken. That's just hey, you didn't have enough time to put something in it that we think the game should have had. Say Halo with having co-op, right? Or multiplayer co-op.
Yeah, but
that should have been available at launch, right? But it came
absolutely.
After
but
the fact.
They're experiences that stop people from playing the game because the feature that they wanted or that was there in previous games or that should have been there. These are not quality of life things even. They're more given features that are supposed to be in the game. That's why they come later, right? They're not like a skin that gets added later or an extra weapon that gets added later. They're fundamental parts of the game that were missing that should have been in the game, that's why I never played Halo Infinite at launch, because the thing didn't have not even just couch co-op, but it didn't even have online co-op. I mean, it was disgraceful. I bought a PC because Todd Howard's vision was 30 FPS on console, but he changed his mind later. All these things are just because they either don't have time or they rush them out or they're just not finished at launch. They got to be finished,
Right. So I'm sorry. I want to finish up what I was going to say.
Yeah. Sorry.
So so thinking of this from a bigger picture standpoint, because I think it's important to keep things in context versus latch on to certain examples that are years old to a degree. Cyberpunk's release date was in 2020. Halo was released probably around that time as well, right? 2020, 2021, something like that. 2021, okay. So we're looking at games that are several years old that, whether they're missing some features that they should have had at the beginning or if they were actually a broken, buggy mess. I think that is not as big of an issue or hasn't been. It's been a little bit better, I would say, considering how things were around 4 or 5 years ago, where maybe we were seeing more of that than we wanted to. The other part is it does boil down to you, the consumer, right? So it's kind of if for you, Gruda, you don't have to worry, you don't get caught up in FOMO. So it's it doesn't, you're not going to go online and read something to get spoiled by it. So it doesn't bother you if you don't play a game 3 to 4 years later to finally have all the things that you want. If you're someone who's kind of hey, is the game playable? And okay, even what some people are making that decision right now with Stalker, right? Can I play the game? It's probably gonna glitch out on me a few times or whatever the case is, but can I still play the game and enjoy it and get through it? And then they're saying, I like Stalker enough that I'm gonna go ahead and go and do the investment, right? Like I'll deal with the fact that I know some patches are needed, but at the same time, I'm digging and enjoying the atmosphere, so I'm going to play the game. So that's each consumer's choice to make that decision. I just don't really feel that there is a huge overarching issue that is still plaguing the industry. I think they've been getting a little bit better over the last couple of years because I can't think of that many examples. If I had a bunch of examples to say like, yeah, you're right, that was broken, then I would maybe agree that, yeah, you're as a whole, something needs to change. But I think right now it's been looking a little bit more optimistic where they are giving themselves some time to let stuff cook a little bit more and actually come out a little bit more polished. So, it's kind of like, yeah, we all want games that work and perform the way they should be at the very beginning. And it'd be nice if every studio can release something that has all the features in it that they want. But we also know that this is a business and certain studios aren't going to get an exorbitant amount of time to add in all the stuff they want to get the game the way they want in their vision because the publisher is standing behind them saying this needs to get to market.
Yeah, sure. I think that's an absolute, definitely fair to say as well. It's usually not developers. Developers would probably never release a game if they had their way because they continue to work on it to get it absolutely perfect. Because most developers are, a perfectionist. Like they've got but then publishers, it's going to be that push and pull to, developers need to be in communication with the publishers. Halo Infinite's a perfect example. Redfall, perfect example. Like the communication wasn't there to get those games to where they need to be. Yeah, there's definitely a push-pull there, and I think developers have gotten better, and I think things are looking more positive. I 110% agree with you. But talking about the red line stuff, and I'm hearing from everyone here that there's obviously different red lines and different definitions of broken games. Like, what is a broken game? And so just not to drill down, I want to drill down on that because everyone has their own definitions, and you're absolutely entitled to. But for me, a broken game is a game that's, it has a game-breaking bug that stops you from playing it. Or stops your progress, or it has many game-breaking or many minor bugs that basically make the game unplayable in some way. But when we're having this conversation, I'm including broken games, and I'm also talking about games that promise to deliver things that they do not deliver. I think Halo is a very different example because Halo just has a slate of games that's released with features. So those features are expected to be there.
And then they purposely left out with Infinite.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
And I think that's okay as long as you get those to market, and they need to not be crucial. Like, listen, couch co-op, they could have left that out. There was a big to-do about that. That was fine. That's fine to leave out. And but like couch co-op, but then Forge was a huge mistake for them to leave that out and then not have the content delivery. So it's all very situational based on what that game had promised, what the expectations are and all this sort of stuff. So it's also a little bit of the publishers setting the expectations as well. And I think they're doing a better job of that, Donte. I 110% agree. I think it's been more positive lately. Talking about red lines. Holly's can of worms. So listen. Far be it from me to tell anyone when to open their wallet and when to close it. It is definitely not in my purview as a human to be telling people what to spend their money on. And no one should. 110% no one should. If you have a problem with a game and you're out there for whatever reason it is, could be pronouns, could be that's broken. But if you're out there like trying to drum up like support to destroy something because you have a problem with it, that's what you're doing. You're telling people what to spend their money on. So the accusation that comes across the sort of the pale sometimes that because it's how you do that is what makes the difference. You can have an opinion, put your opinion out there and leave it there, I think is fine. If you're out there just constantly doing, trying to just spending all your time, as a creator, spending all your time as a Twitter personality or whatever, trying to hit a game and then picking a specific topic and constantly hitting that, it's tiresome. To drill down a little bit further on pronouns and that sort of stuff, I think it's fine to have them. Like, there's people out there that have them and want to use them, and that's fine. That's up to you.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with that, that's also fine. I have no problem with that.
Don't use them.
Yeah,
Most
don't
states
use
make
them.
it optional, so don't use them.
But I think you've gone a little bit far if just pronouns are like a huge problem to you. Like, I think you as a human being should probably step back from fucking social media and just take a minute to breathe and think about if you were to come across someone who did use pronouns, like would you be a dick to that person just because they have a pronoun? I think you find most people wouldn't.
No.
And if you are, then I think you are a bit of a dick. But but there's obviously I understand the slippery slope conversation as well, and that's fine to say, but not everything starts here and ends here. It's just not how life works. It doesn't start here and then all of a sudden you end up over here going, whoa, how the fuck did we get here? And some things do. So you keep an eye on that and you sort of temp check what's going on. And I can understand that. If there's governmental mandates on people, because this has happened, if there's governmental mandates on people to speak a certain way, you'll fucking see me like, I don't like that stuff. So the government should never mandate how you say what you say or censor anyone or anything like that. I don't think that should happen. Private corporations are a different kettle of fish again. I think you need to be the problem is that I'm seeing, especially with the recent video that I put out, there's just no nuance there. It's like, pronoun, no, game's going to be trash. It's just not like that. And if that's the kind of mindset you have, I actually feel sorry for you a little bit, because that must be a horrible place to be in. Like, I'm not being a dick, like, you know what I mean? I'm not talking. I don't want to talk down, but I actually feel a little bit sorry that you don't have the mental capacity to take all of that in and find the nuance. Because that's such a triggering thing for you, and I would feel like would be a horrible place to be in. I wouldn't want to be in that place. And yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like some people just need to detach a little bit from the digital, go outside, and literally touch grass. Sounds cliched, but like literally go and look at what you have and what
touch
you
grass
can do for yourself.
And touch ass too, bro, because I swear some of them never have.
Damn.
Yeah, look, agreed. And look, I've got a lot in my life to be. We just had Thanksgiving, to be super grateful for. And that requires my attention and time. That's not in this world. I've got 5 kids. I've got a missus. I've got relatives. I've got a job. I've got all this stuff going on in the background that obviously when you guys see me on here, you don't see. And they're what's important. And so to me, because I have all that, I guess, and I know a lot of people maybe don't, and I hope everyone sort of gets to the place they want to be at. That maybe their focus goes too hard to, what a fucking game has in it. Like, and then the last thing I'll say on it, and I don't want to bring anyone else in if they don't want to, is like, 1, I'm not telling you what to spend your money on. 2, I'm not telling you what to be pissed off about. But what I am saying is you don't need to get online and be a dick to people, because that's worse. I think that's worse than someone asking you to call them fucking them they, is being a fuckwit to people online. Like, being an asshole because someone doesn't believe what you believe or doesn't hold the same opinion as what you hold is infinitely fucking worse. And if you want to have a conversation about this stuff, just drop the ad hominem bullshit. Like, you don't need to do that. You can have a conversation back and forth and vehemently disagree with someone without having to be a fucking asshole. And if you need to do that, it's because you don't have the mental capacity to have the conversation. And then I think that you should back the fuck off and shut the fuck up. Not that I'm saying that anyone shouldn't, I don't think anyone should, I'm not trying to shut down people's speech. But I'm just saying, like, if you haven't gone and done the research, gotten all the facts, and looked at the landscape, maybe you should. I'm just saying. Anyone want to add anything?
Just quickly, like, I generally agree with everything you said, but I don't think there's any research and facts that really need to come into this. Like, whatever happened to live and let live, man? Like, why can't you just for me, if other people around me or just anyone in general is happy and they're not hurting anyone, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them.
Like, let them exist.
Like, if you don't feel that way, I feel like there's something missing from you, bro. You know, like that's just how I feel. You know, I just want. It's that simple for me.
I echo that, Garuda. You hit it on the nail, man. So look, sure, everyone has the right to speak with your wallet when it comes to consuming products, right? So if it really bothers you that much that a game has a pronoun choice in it, then yeah, you don't purchase that game. If that's how you're going to go ahead and judge something that you claim that you love, which is the medium of playing video games. Me personally, I'm right where Garuda's at, where it's kind of like, let people be themselves, man, and let them exist. It doesn't impact you your life whatsoever, especially for something that usually is optional in video games. You know, like you don't have to go ahead and choose something, and most of the time when they have that as an option, and if it's there, it's just there. You know what I'm saying? Like being bothered that there's a segment of the population that's important to them is just weird to me. Like what there's a variety of different types of different sexual preferences and all that good stuff, races, ethnicities, if I can talk. All that stuff exists, right? That's what makes life interesting. And it's kind of like when you get to that point where you're automatically just starting to discredit things just because of these trigger things, right? Which a lot of it to me, I think is more based on the grift at this point. That's where I kind of lose you. Like, to me, having a conversation about games that aren't working could impact everybody if the games aren't working, right? That's a bigger vote for your wallet situation, because it's like, hey, we want to play this game and we can't play this game because this game is crashing all the time on such and such products, right? Or this game basically is missing a ton of features that they said. Like, those are worthwhile conversations that I welcome for gaming to get back to, where we're just talking about things like that, as what the game is doing or what the game is missing, and things of that nature. But if we're just talking about, it has this character and this character is a woman, or it has this option to choose pronouns, and automatically that makes it woke or whatever the case is, then it's kind of like you've lost me, man, because we're losing the plot in terms of what it means to just be gamers enjoying games. It's just more about what does it mean to be outraged and try to complain about and have your echo chamber kind of resonate with you. So I'm hoping that we as a society can evolve and get past that, and especially when it comes to, this is our escape. At least that's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? This is like my escape from the day-to-day of life. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when your escape is also dealing with the same bullshit, it's kind of like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like you're literally trying to take away like all my FUs of refuge, my areas of refuge, with the same type of BS that it would deal with in personal life. You know what I'm saying? Being a person of color that sometimes has you deal with stuff, right? People say certain things, you deal with stuff, right? So it's kind of like, I can only imagine how someone feels if they do use pronouns, or if someone is, a woman and trying to play games in a particular space, and then guys are telling her that, girls shouldn't play games, or whatever the case is. It's like, it's just weird behavior that we're doing as a society that I'm hoping we can at some point get past it. And when it comes to the hobby, get back to enjoying the hobby, and let's have legitimate conversations that are honest based on the merit on, is the game good or is it bad? Like, does it have great mechanics? Is it visually pleasing? You know what I'm saying? That is the story good? That's the conversations that I want us to have as gamers, not this other stuff that we see on that one app all the time.
Yeah, and the world, it's hard out there in the world, man. It's really like there's so many real issues out there in the world, and gaming is very much an escape from all those real oppressive bullshit issues that we have in this world, right? Let's not make this a fucking toxic place where we just nitpick every little unnecessary bullshit out of it and make it another part of life that we're trying to escape. Like, let's not do that. Like,
yeah, and 100%. And look, let me add this as well as a caveat. I also don't want to see developers like saying whatever you think Elon Musk, you might like him, you might hate him, you might think you might be sitting in the middle. Something's good, something's bad, whatever. But if a developer is going to come out and go, yeah, awesome, I pissed him off, I don't want to see that shit either, because I don't think that should be going into their game. What I want my developers to do, and they don't have to do it because I can't tell developers how to develop, but what I would like my developers to do is to try to develop a game that they're proud of, that they enjoy playing, and that I'll enjoy playing. not to upset someone or to not or to you know what I mean? Like, obviously you're aiming for an audience, and if part of your audience is those people who use pronouns, that's fine. I have no problem with that. And if I'm not included in that audience, that is also fine, and I have no problem with that. But if I am included in that audience, you like don't sort of aim your ire at me if I'm included in the audience as well. So I think there is a problem on the other side of the thing. But the vitriol that comes from gamers, you're creating that, and some developers will dig their heels in and probably do shit to go fuck you, because that is human nature. You know, someone very recently that I'm having a back and forth with said, if you tell me what to fucking do, I'm going to tell you fuck you and do the opposite. That is exactly what's going on with developers. Developers like, don't tell me how to develop. And that's, you know, like, you know, but also I would also like to see developers calm the situation. Like, I think sometimes, you know, unfairly, people need to be the fucking adults in the room. And I would like to see developers be the adults in the room. I don't think the responses are helpful. And I know some people disagree with that, and that's fine too. Like, some people are like, nah, fuck them, and they should come out and tell everyone to fuck off. And that's fine as well if you believe that, but that's just my thoughts on it from the other side. Like, there's, you know, like, life is unfair, and sometimes you need to suck up the shit and be the adult in the room. And I think developers should be being the adults in the room. And you know, that to me is just, I think, rational, but I guess, you know, not everyone will agree with that. Holly, did you want to add? You're right. Do you want to add anything to your worms?
Go for it. No, I was just going to say, like, I hear what you're saying. Just one quick part about, like, developers in terms of saying something or not. Like, I rationally get your view of it, and I, to a degree, have kind of shared it. Where it's like, you know, in this climate, kind of like get a game out and try to avoid that whole fiasco. So that way you don't have this segment of the population within gaming Twitter trying to derail your product before it even hits the market, right? But then I also understand the other side of, like, silence is capitulation, you know, like letting this toxic crowd try to control a narrative and being silent is capitulation to, you know, like them trying to silence a whole group of people who are whatever, right? Different than them. And so it's kind of like I'm not mad at someone for also saying, no, F you, I'm going to say something about it, because I'm not going to capitulate and just be like, you know, you're controlling the narrative, where we can't make the story that we want or give options to the different type of people that exist out there. So, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's one of those things. It's probably easier if you're a bigger company who has more control of what you put out, right? And it's, you know, like, you're not answered to larger publisher. Maybe a different scenario when you're a studio that you definitely, like, need a hit or something like that, and you do gotta maybe try to avoid that. But like that is sad that's now the concern for every major game that releases now, is we are now waiting for when that one Grums, you know, I'm not gonna say his actual name, but when him and his ilk try to get a hold of something and spin a narrative, and then it'll become 50 videos on YouTube's and Twitter. Like, that is every big game now that we're looking at, is like, how long before we start seeing the messages, the tweets about why this game is that, and why it's trash. You know, every game now. And it's kind of like, it's stupid at this point. Like, we're going to do this for every single game that comes out that needs to specifically meet this one segment's specific idea of what a game needs to include. I'm like, that's, you know what I'm saying? That's dumb that's the conversation.
No, it didn't happen. It happened with Warhammer.
Say what?
Everything about Indiana Jones. I mean, there's a lot of...
You're botting, Holly.
Yeah, you're botting hard.
Yeah, you're botting.
Ex-botting.
Botting.
Remind me.
Holly?
Okay.
No, you're good. You sound good, yeah.
Oh.
Go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Holly?
I said, there's our games that come out that
Yeah, she's cutting out hard. I think she was going to say, like, Warhammer, but, like, you can just do a quick search online and type in Warhammer woke.
Indiana Jones.
If you type in a search online and type in Warhammer woke, and you'll see that there's an article about Warhammer woke. Now, Warhammer would be the game that you would think should not have that controversy because it's doing all the things that crowd
the
wants,
only
right?
thing that came out about Warhammer was the stuff that came out about Warhammer was the fact that there weren't women, or like, and that's not in the same ilk as some of these other conversations that are happening, right?
Yeah, no,
and Indiana Jones. My point is,
Warhammer isn't a good example, is what I'm saying, though,
they're games
because it fits that narrative. It's the type of game they want to see.
I'm just gonna stop.
You're cutting in and out, Holly. But I'm saying, like, Warhammer is the type of game where it's checking the boxes that particular group wants, right? It's uber masculine. It's it's not really talking about the things that they want to complain about, which is pronouns and women being, in super strong roles that have always existed in certain super strong roles, like, same as Aaron or something like that. So, like, of course, that it wouldn't be much of a big controversy because it's fitting what they want for games to be, right? It's fitting their little wheelhouse of, like, yeah, this is perfect. This is the type of game that we want. So I wouldn't have expected, but still there's something that is out there. Damn it, you cutting out, Holly? Holly, no!
Offline, no!
Holly, no!
Yeah, I think we lost her, but she trying to get her back. I'm talking to her in the background.
Yeah, look,
again, like, there's we'll get off this topic in a second, but there is a case to be made. So for me, Dragon Age Valguard, to me, and yes, it's bad writing, but also there's some stuff in there that I just don't want to deal with in a game. Like, there was that scene that everyone put out, and I think it's fair to raise that, not by the people who are raising it. I think it's fair to raise that I don't want to pay for a game that tells me how to deal with pronouns or, like, what to do when I misgender someone. Like, I already know what to do. I already know if I make that mistake, what I need to do to, you know what I mean? I don't need to go do fucking push-ups. Like, that to me is where there's a point to be made. Then there's also a point to be made on the right, and that's fine. Like, and that's my line, and I think I'm allowed to have that. And it's not every game, but it fucking feels like it. Absolutely feels like it. It's every game. We're just waiting to see if this one gets picked up by Grumps. Like, absolutely agree. It's like, and every time it happens, it's just like, for fuck's sake, this one as well? Like, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas we've sort of stopped focusing on the game. Holly, how you doing? Is your internet back? How you feeling? Holly?
I think she's still connecting. She's back. Oh, no. We got her.
She's sort of back.
Lost her.
Are you back?
Say something. Bleep twice if you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Damn, Holly, what's happening in Illinois?
We can hear you. I think you just need to, like, go like a full sentence so we can pick up when the.
I'm very frustrated. How about that? That's something to say.
Hey, I heard you say you're very frustrated. There you go. Keep going.
Yeah. What do you got?
Like,
what do you want to add?
12-second delay.
Yeah, it's weird. Is her connection still showing as jacked up?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
We'll stare at the Holly box until she's ready.
Put it front and center, main screen it.
Oh, Garuda, come on! That is not what I'm. Damn. That's my own fault.
Oh, man, hold on. It's delayed,
I think there are plenty. There are plenty of games out there that are coming out that skirt the issue entirely. Now, if that's just the fact that the game is written a specific way or it has a specific character, kind of like Indiana Jones, right? Then that's just the situation of the game. And I think Warhammer was who the audience, independent of some of those things that you brought up. And look, you said, I just exhausted of real life forced or pushed to our escapism any way it is, right? On either side of the aisle about arguing and all of this nonsense that happens all the time. My only point when I originally said is just like, risk that this is other people have chosen their line, and to your point, if this is what they believe, like, I don't need her about it in 2 tweets in 3 days. But that's your choice. That's fine. Just like I chose not to buy the PS5 Pro because it did my needs, or I did not find it valuable. I find it to be something that I want. And I think this conversation is the same only in the sense that I'm just saying that people who have chosen that this is something that they have a line on, fine. Like, other people shouldn't necessarily be mad about that, because that is somebody else's choice. Just like you have a choice to desire it and support it, or go hard on whatever topic it is that you want to get behind. You shouldn't be mad at somebody for having the opposite opinion about that, as long as they're not aggressive, as long as they're not, cursing at you, calling you names, all of those things. I'll ever work to our choice.
But I think unfortunately that tends to happen though, right? Like that particular crowd and segment tends to do a couple of things: crusade about it online to try to get other people to believe their opinion. Whereas, like, in a situation like, I'm choosing to not buy that game because the game is broken, I'm not going on to Twitter. Garuda's not going on to Twitter trying to campaign to tell others not to do it. Or I'm not hitting up the dev, going crazy at the dev because a feature isn't working. Whereas that crowd is like, yes, that is your right. You have, spend your money the way you want. But when you're getting to that area where you're crossing over and you are trying to campaign and influence others to hate it because you hate it, and then you're attacking the developers or attack someone who doesn't agree with the fact of your thought process on it, like, that is happening, right? So I think there is a level to this in terms of, I'm choosing not to spend my money on this because this game isn't performing, versus I'm choosing not to spend my money on this game because I don't like pronouns. And then I'm also encouraging other people to feel the same way, and we're adding the devs and talking shit to the devs. Like, that's different.
Also, this complete other side of the internet, other complete side of the internet, that also promoting certain aspects. It might just be that, it's not or it crossed your timeline, whatever the case is, right? That, for example, this Matt, I don't remember his last, from Avowed, right? Like, those opinions, which he's so yeah, right?
And you're breaking up so bad, Holly.
I know that if I put out stuff, like if I put out stuff
Harley,
that
inflames
that you
said,
the masses,
I can understand it.
Then my
you're botting really, really hard.
This is really
body butts.
Holly bot.
Yeah, it's super, super, super bad. Look, let me steal, man. I think what Holly's saying is like, is that studios and developers and games highlight certain features or have certain opinions and put them out into the world, and then that's sort of found, I think, is what she's saying. And hit me in a text, Holly, if that's correct. It's correct. Here's what the difference is. There was a point in time, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, where the whole world was campaigning against video games, movies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for inclusivity. And in some cases, unfairly, they would go after a game or a movie to say, hey, this doesn't, why does this only have white dudes in it, or whatever the fuck ever, right? That was happening. And yes, I 100% agree that was happening. That's not to say that DEI wasn't needed and all that sort of stuff. That those conversations need to be had. I think they went a little bit too far. But now what's happening, or what I see is happening, for a topic we weren't going to talk about, we're talking about this a lot. But now what I see is happening, and I just to counter, and look, I if you know what the Overton window is, it's where you sit in political ideology. And I have always been a liberal. I've always been left. But the Overton window shifted, and the guys left went really fucking far left and left me somewhere sitting right of the center. And I always say I'm a centrist because of a sort of take from both sides, and I sort of don't sit on a side. So when I say this, I'm sitting slightly right of center, just so if people seem to want me to have a fucking side, so that would, if I had to pick a side, I would say slightly right of center is where I'm sitting at the moment, and that could change. But what's happening now, and it's not fucking helpful. What's happening now is the anti-woke crowd is looking, is scouring and looking at every new game release for anything that slightly fucking resembles just the slightest amount of what they consider in that woke, and then will attack it. And that's just not helpful. And that's what I think is happening with games at the moment. And it's okay to say, I think she's got some internet. It's okay to say that it absolutely is okay, because it was happening the other way. And now it's happening this way. But it's like, why do we have to always do this two rights, two wrongs don't make a fucking right? You went too far left, and now the right's coming back too hard, going too far right. Just chill the fuck out. Enjoy the fucking game. And if you don't like the game, don't play it. But again, there's this one thing that if you are on the right that everyone talks about all the time, and that's meritocracy. You can apply that to a game. Judge the game on its merits. Does it have that thing? Yes, that's a bad point for you. Does it have this thing? Good point. Bad thing. Bad point. Good thing. Good point. Look at your mechanics. Look at all that stuff goes into making a game, and all of it is relevant. And to you, if you decide that you don't like it because of one thing, that has pronouns, then I don't know, man. I feel like that's a little bit too far. Now, listen, there is games that have a whole lot of shit in them that's like I said, I think Dragon Age Valgarb is a little bit too far for me. I will play it because I want to see how much of that was in it.
You got to play it.
That's
first.
True. That's true. I'm adding that
because it's really not that much. It's literally what they posted on Twitter, and that's pretty much the ones that we've talked about. That's what's in the game for the most part, and it's not prevalent beating you over the head throughout the rest of the game. So
okay. So when is it just a little bit versus when is it too much then?
Well, that's individual though.
Only the people who get bothered by that are the ones who have to make that call, right? Because none of that stuff bothers me. People existing and how they want to be called, that's life. It doesn't bother me. So to me, I'm not the one to sit there and say, oh, that's too much. But for people who are bothered by it, then that's the balance in that the developers and the creators and writers have to make as to okay, we're not going to say that we don't exist, right? We're not going to completely cower and hide in a corner from these folks and say that we don't exist. So we want to basically try to continue to fight for our right to exist to some degree. But at the point where, how can we do it where it's not becoming to the point where it's preachy and the people who are still really, really bothered by it, now you've pushed them too far. So I don't know what that answer is for that person, you know what I'm saying? But there needs to be that actual conversation. And then some people need to kind of check themselves and sit there and say, why does it matter to you? It's not your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you made it. You sort of said a word there where it actually matters to me. I don't preachy. As long as it's not that, then I'm cool. And that particular scene, it was very preachy, and I'm like, fuck you, man. Don't tell me how to behave. I don't like many other people. I'm like, don't fucking tell me how to behave. I'll do what the fuck I want to do, how I want to do it. And I'm generally a good person. And if you want to be have a pronoun, I'll use that. Like I said, if you want to be called the purple people eater, I'll fucking call you the purple people eater. I'm happy with that. That's fine. You know what I mean? But if it's if it's a governmental policy, then I have a problem with it. Right. If it's in a video game that there's a them they and that's just part of the game, then I'm fine with that too. But if there's a scene in a game where it's this is what you should be doing, you naughty human being. They don't say that. That's just dumbing it down, right? Then I'm like, fuck you. Man, don't tell me how to live my life. And I think that's sort of my take on all that. And it's different for everyone, and it's okay. Like, my overarching thing is it's absolutely okay to have whatever view you want to have. But I think, and Holly, I think I steel manned your argument before, but there was a time when, you know, the left was looking at every single game, every single movie saying, hey, this doesn't have enough diversity. Now it's fucking fully flipped, and we've got the right, the hard right, looking at every single game, looking for just this tiniest amount of something that they consider woke, and then it's just on for young and old. You know, it's all over Twitter, it's all over YouTube, it just doesn't stop. So if we can just get back to that middle section there where we can just, you know, have a good middle ground, things will be good. Jesus, for a topic we weren't going to talk about, that was
this is your fault, Riskit. This is your fault. You know what you're doing when you bring this goddamn topic up, man. That's your fault. You got it. Next time, avoid. Just don't do the topic, because we, like, you know what I'm saying. Like, we know what's happening in terms of what's happening with a certain segment of the Twitter sphere, right, and YouTube or whatever. And it's just kind of like, all right, they're gonna exist, and we just got to try to do our best to try to still exist. We want to be somewhere, even if you're center right leaning, be somewhere in the part where you're still recognizing people's ability to exist and kind of giving a F a less, right? To just let that stuff fly. Like, yeah, that's not for me, right? Because that's how I treat things. That's not for me. Like, oh, that's cool. That's not for me. I'm not gonna get up in arms about it. I just be like, oh, okay, that's not for me, and then I move on and I continue on for what I'm doing, right? Or continue enjoying what it is I'm playing.
I think that's the average person,
right? And that's where I want to be. I want to be where the average person is doing that, and not these conversations.
I didn't buy Veilguard because I was like, that's probably not for me for a variety of reasons, right? Like,
me too.
That was one thing, but the purple stuff and, you know, just all, like, there was just a lot of choice.
I didn't
the art
buy it
style
because of the
choices.
purple. That's it.
What's the purple stuff? What the hell is
the
that?
whole game is fucking purple, dude.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Just like purple hue that I hate all across the game.
The hue and the art style stuff. Gotcha.
The art style
don't
stuff,
like
gotcha.
right? Like,
and I don't like action adventure third person games that much. They're just it's just not. I was hoping for an RPG. You know what I mean? But
let's let Holly get in, because Holly hasn't been able to talk. We can actually hear her.
She's not breaking up, so back.
I'm on my phone's mobile hotspot now.
Oh, so your phone.
Oh, nice.
It's killing your local internet. So call your company. Tell them they suck.
I have a gig in the living room. For some reason, this PC just doesn't. I don't know. I think the Wi-Fi card is boned in it.
Okay.
But anyway, no. I just like so that was my choice. Like, I'm just not going to buy it. I'm not going to support the purple madness, right, with my wallet, right? So that is the choice that I made. Am I on Twitter screaming about it? Absolutely not, because it's my choice. It has nothing to do with it. Anybody else does, right? Like, you chose to buy it, fine, right? I don't care. Enjoy, right? Like, it's not like that. I do think it's fair for people to say, I didn't buy it because of these reasons, and here's why, right? But that's like the extent of it. I don't think that anybody should be on a crusade to chastise somebody else for their opinion, their choice,
on either side,
whatever.
And so we're
on
all
either
people
side,
who are different political spectrums and ideals and whatnot, but yet we're all in agreement here in terms of like being there somewhere in the middle where we're existing and we're not going on a crusade. And I think that's the only part that I'm pushing back on, is the people who are treating it as a crusade where every game has to have this conversation. And I feel like
I do
only
think
a
it is a very
small
small minority, though.
Maybe.
I think it's a very small minority that just has a lot of...
is loud.
They're very loud.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very loud.
And they know how to tweet, like, they're very good at being very active in tweeting constantly or making videos, right? That they just put out everywhere. They share it everywhere, right? So it gains traction that way.
Yeah. But what's our next topic?
I'll move to the next topic, but I think I can just sum this up right at the end. There's one thing to have to have a problem with whatever it is, a piece of content media, and for whatever reason. It's another thing to then go on Twitter and tell people that because they don't share your view, that you're part of the problem. Like, fuck off. Like, I am not. Like, that's
What were you
the last
called
video I
recently
made
in someone's video. What were you called recently?
Are we
by
talking
someone?
about somebody in particular?
grifting.
Huh?
Like it's one thing. It like literally look at the comments in my last video. Like there's so many. You're part of the problem. I'm not, because I'm not as outraged as you. That does not make me any fucking problem. I have an opinion. It's different to yours. Fucking, if you don't like it, move the fuck on. That's as simple as that. Like, move the fuck on. And then don't get out there and tell me I should shut the fuck up. And don't get out there and tell me that I shouldn't have an opinion. You can go fuck yourself. That's you. Like, the hugest hypocrisy is free speech, free speech, free speech. And then to turn around and tell someone to shut the fuck up because they have an opinion is just the dumbest shit like I've ever heard. Is literally shutting down speech. So, you know, I don't want to say it like this. It's very Australian, but like, suck my dick.
Damn.
Sorry.
Tell us how you really feel.
Holly, you were going to
Get off
add
your
something,
chest.
and then we'll move the fuck on.
I mean, no, I was just look. I'm a big proponent of everybody being allowed to express their opinion, right,
Yeah.
wrong, whatever. So you know, a lot of opinion is subjective. That's why it's called opinion, right? So if there are people who are constantly in your timeline who are saying things that you don't agree with, there's an easy way to fix that, right? So it's, I don't know. I just think like everybody has the right to speak. I really hate the thing. I hate the speak your truth kind of like, I hate that like line, but you know, everybody has the right to express their own opinion. And so if you're unhappy with their opinion, like either it depends on the type of person you are, right? You can either like lean all in and go and get in the comments and get dirty and get gritty and do the Riskit thing. or you can block and mute like the Donte thing, right? So, or just remove yourself from those circles and your life is happier, right? Now, obviously it creates a little bit of an echo chamber, but you know, if you're getting upset and if it's
calm.
like, if it's giving you ulcers and it's giving you stress and you find yourself angry reading these things, that's not a healthy situation to be in. So,
No, right?
you know, you might tip your toe over the line every once in a while just to see what other people from not your, you know, headspace is thinking. But if you react that way, you know, it shouldn't be a place that you live in because it just makes you an unhappy person.
Absolutely. And like, all I'm saying is like, if I think these conversations are really important, and I know that sometimes they're frustrating to have. So apologies for you guys, because, you know, I blame Holly, but Donte blames me. He made that clear.
I text Riskit all the time. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, I'm going to do it.
I can see his brain churning when I'm like, oh, he's talking about something.
He's like, I'm definitely going to do it.
I know what's going to happen tonight.
Do it. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
But like, I just think we like be the adults in the room, you know, like you just speak to people, you know, have the conversation, but be respectful about how you do it. And a lot of people just aren't, and that's just not helpful.
That's the problem.
You kind of said it there. That's the thing, man. Like the way I see it is like, you look at some of these vocal minority types that we're referring to, and they're not really adults, bro. A lot of the time, okay. Some might be grown men, but they're not adults, not in the way they act and conduct themselves, and certainly not intellectually either. If you're trying to have a sort of an open debate or even just a discussion with somebody with, you know, essentially a single digit IQ, you're never really going to get anywhere. So I tend not to pay it no mind as far as that's concerned too, because those guys are never going to change their mind, and you know, they're just not really with it upstairs, man. And that's really obvious when you step back and look at it. So I don't put too much energy into that because of that reason.
And if it is a grift, it doesn't even matter, right? Because if it's a grift, it's like, I don't even fully really believe this, but it's drawing the attention and traffic that I need, right?
And if I'm reading a thread between people going back and forth about something, and I don't care what side they're on, my side, the other side, doesn't matter. The minute I see name calling start, you've lost credibility.
Yeah, it's over.
I just have no interest in this anymore.
100%, Holly. It is absolutely over.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as the ad hominem starts, and it's not a Socrates comment, but it was pasted as one, but as soon as you start calling names, you've lost the argument. Like, it's because you've got nothing else to come back with it, and you're that triggered. You're
emotional.
That
you're emotional.
Yeah. You have no intellectual credibility at that point, or any credibility as a human being. So yeah, I mean, like, it's going to be, I'm making a video this week. It's going to be very difficult not to go ad hominem. But I'm not going to. I'm going to just be intellectual and do my thing.
That is the biggest bullshit grin I've ever seen.
He's going to put on his red ruby slippers and take the yellow brick road.
Let's move on to the next topic. If you enjoy these topics, here's not the place for you. No, if you enjoy these topics or the show, please hit the like button. Share us out. We go live every second Friday. This is a pre-record. Next show will be a live. Shout out to Umbra as well, who got back to me. He was definitely asleep and feeling a little bit ill after Thanksgiving. Shout out to Donte for going through with the hangover. Shout out to Gabruda for dealing with COVID. And shout out to Holly, who just bailed on the show because she was
terrible
sick.
Internet. Shout out Holly.
Shout out
downgrade to Holly's net.
Yeah.
Who's your internet provider so we can give him a shout out? No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. They'll probably shut us down. We'll move on to the next topic. Look, this is one of the things that...
Damn.
This is sort of a local local issue, an article that I came across, and I am going to link all these articles in the description as well, so you guys can go and check them out. But there's a decline in Australian video game industry journalism, and it leaves consumers lacking local information, is the headline. And I don't think this is just a localized issue, but it's a localized article. One of the quotes from it is, video game is such an enormous area of entertainment, possibly bigger than movies and music combined, and it is worth serious analysis. Australia's gaming journalism is fading as major outlets close, leaving a gap in local coverage. With 4.4 billion spent on games and devices in the last year, the demand for critical reporting remains strong. And I guess the reason that I'm sort of talking about this is we've seen recently... can't remember the name of the few gaming places that have closed down. We've seen some consolidation, and we've seen gaming journalism closing down. And I don't think that that's completely the fault of the gaming journalism, but I also think they do have a part to play. Obviously the digital landscape has changed greatly over the last 10 years. If you look at the last 20 years, we've gone from paper editions with demos attached to the front of them to, everything's online or digital. And if you're not the first to drop an article, then usually you don't get the clicks. Unfortunately, it's not journalistic integrity that is valued by the journalists themselves, and that is because of the way that we consume these articles. Is because we go, you want to get the story first. So instead of being, spending that time to fact check and do a bit of investigative journalism behind the scenes, they very likely get things wrong because they're just trying to get that article to market first, get that scoop. It's always been about that. But at the same time, there was the push and pull between the integrity and getting the scoop. And I feel like we've lost some of that in the gaming media. We cut that back to the Xbox tax, which 110% sort of, I think, exists. I think bias has become a really interesting thing, especially off the back of the conversation that we just had. Confirmation bias and bias. I think when you look at the gaming media as a landscape across the entire industry, for a good part, most of them are going to be PlayStation players. The next biggest segment is going to be PC players, and the segment after that's going to be Xbox. And you can see that bear out within reviews. I would like to see a return to journalistic integrity, and I think it would save them. Now, if you look at publications like Windows Central, that wears their bias on their sleeve, but I believe has huge journalistic integrity. Look, Jazz has got a couple of things wrong. Jazz is not Windows Central, but as a whole, I think that company is extremely integrous. And then I'll even shout out, and they've had a couple of things wrong as well. Push Square, which is a PlayStation centric, and they wear their bias on their sleeve. But I found them to be more integrous than I would say IGN is. I think IGN has just pushed the scoop. I think it's such a big company that they don't get it. The editors don't really get a chance to vet out articles and vet out what their journalists are putting out, vet out what their reviews are. And I don't think they force, well, that's not the way to say it. I don't think they try to spread their reviews and spread their coverage over the systems like they used to back in the 360 days. They always sort of had the segments sort of equal across PlayStation and 360, and now we're into the sort of that new age. And like I said, PlayStation the biggest, PC second biggest coverage, and then Xbox. I feel like their coverage sort of might be matching the sales of those systems and the people within their systems. And I feel like that's fine because, that's the people. But I still think there should be fairer coverage. And I think that's really been affecting, I think people have lost faith in the gaming media, which is sad to see. It has opened up the new media, which is us, I guess. But I would still like to see a return to the written word's integrity. And I think that there's space for that. Garuda, I'll jump to you. Get your thoughts on the gaming media. I think you're a great lover of the gaming media. You've pledged your allegiance to IGN many times. And so I expect to hear a lot of pushback.
He has an IGN hoodie.
Bruh, don't do me like that.
It's an IGN hoodie. It has Garuda on the left.
Yeah, I also used to wipe my ass.
His breast is Garuda intruder.
But yeah, it is a huge issue. I think across no matter sort of what platform you're kind of centric to, as far as video games are concerned, you're going to see a vast majority of the user base are going to tell you that they've lost some sort of faith in the integrity in video game journalism, and it never really was the case going back, sort of not really in the too distant future. So a lot of it is changed based on sort of clicks and the metrics involved in getting said clicks and everything like that. So, and it comes sort of back to what we're talking about before, but a lot of it's like IGN is just one big grift. And that's been obvious for years and years. That one was one of the first to start heading down that path, which really it dilutes the whole industry, being that they're, sort of the biggest conglomerate in the space. So that just completely makes a mockery of what the industry and games journalism is supposed to be. So IGN has a lot to answer for. They really should be trying to set the standard for what is expected from an integrity standpoint in the industry. But in fact, they set the bar so low, and they're a case of what not to do, that's a huge problem in itself. They have a huge responsibility. They need to turn it around. So that won't happen. Look, as far as the review processes and everything is, which is what, not just news reporting, but review process is something that really affects the way gamers feel integrity is in the industry. That the whole review process it's too ambiguous. So it really is just somebody's opinion. A review of a game or something like that is just someone's opinion at the end of the day. But unless there's some sort of overarching structure or something that is industry-wide standard structure that everybody has to work to, then you're always going to have this this sort of gray area where people are going to view bias one way or the other, because nobody works to one structure or one real standard. It's just somebody's opinion on a game, and if they think they can get clicks by giving it a certain score or being a little bit tongue-in-cheek or lowbrow or whatever, they do it. IGN, so and that's why you see such. And also, with review process, it's the reviewers sort of tend to review the game on whatever platform they have a particular bias to. So that's one thing. That's why when you go and click on a major AAA game, for example, today, you will see 40 reviews for the PlayStation 5 platform and maybe only 10 or 12 or 13 for Xbox. Because those reviewers probably get to choose which platform they want to review it on, and they go from there. So that's a bit of an issue as well. I remember, Riskit, you'll probably remember this. When I was a kid, they had a magazine in Australia called Hyper. Hyper magazine was an Australian video game publication, and it was a multi-plat magazine. It was really good because they would tell you what they reviewed a game on, but they would also tell you about the different versions, like if it was the Xbox version, or it was the PlayStation, or it was Nintendo, they'll tell you the differences between them all as well, because they clearly played the game on every platform. And I know it's not necessarily always easy, and reviews are not paid and they don't necessarily generate revenue as such directly for a publication. But if they want to have a return to integrity, then I would like to see games and stuff start to be reviewed on all platforms and things like that. But yeah, generally, I think a decline in sort of reporting and games journalism, it's just because of the grift, man. You know, like people can see through it. There's no, what do you say? It's the same. It sort of ties into what we were talking about before. I would like to see a reviewing structure. For me, it's the review process. News and stuff like that, people wanting to be first, yep, they get called out because they don't do that investigative journalism. Like you said, they get caught out. But the reviews side of it, that's what makes me lose faith. And the only way to fix that is to have that overarching structure that is an industry standard. And I don't really know how we create that. But that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I 110% agree with that. But it's a very difficult thing to do, to put everyone under a structure. But I think if you did that, publication by publication, then that would go a long way to sort of add to the integrity. Talking about Hyper, yeah, I do remember them. But I mean, there is something in the industry that we have now called Digital Foundry that do that. And a lot of people would say that they're part of the problem, whereas I don't believe that's so. I think it's in. Well, I definitely don't think they are. It's informative and they call it how it is.
They're fantastic, but you can. There's like clear,
it's not them.
I don't want to.
It's how it's used.
I don't want to. Oh yeah, no, they're amazing. The work they do is absolutely incredible, and I love watching their videos. But they still have their own preferences that are obvious.
No, sorry.
They're obvious. They're obvious enough. There's certain guys on their panel and stuff that are clearly lean one way, and that throws that doubt out there. That's always going to be the case. So John Linneman.
Yeah, but everyone's allowed to have their bias.
That's right.
But everyone's allowed to have. They're allowed to have that bias. I don't think it does personally. I know that people do think it does, and I would probably be the only one on this panel right now that would push back and say I don't think it really does. I think he
I love them though. I do love them.
When he makes his tweets, we're talking about John Linneman. Love John Linneman. I think he's a great dude. But like when he makes his tweets and he says stuff online, yeah, that definitely bleeds out. But I don't think it bleeds into his work. I just don't. I think the facts and figures are the facts and figures. You know what I mean? And he may sometimes the way that he sort of downplays the PlayStation shortfalls. I don't think he does do that. I think he downplays the PlayStation shortfalls, but he doesn't really push highly up the Xbox shortfalls, you know what I mean? But when they were talking about the Series S, people were losing their minds, but I think they made a lot of valid points about the platform that we see bear out over time, and I think they were right. So, like a lot of people are going to attack me in the chat when this goes on. So go for it, guys. You can get one of these for free. But I think I would like to see a return to form for the gaming media, because I think the written word's important, and I would like to trust it again. But at this current time, I have some trusted publications that I'll go to, but it's not the Kotakus, the PC Gamers, which I used to go to. We've seen in recent times them just sort of throwing their bias out everywhere, and I think it's sort of sad to see, and I think it goes into the decline of the media industry, and I think that's sad. We're losing something.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people now do, including myself, just quickly, this is how I don't go looking at review scores. For the fun of it, I guess, and the amusement, I check Metacritic just to sort of have a bit of a chuckle or whatever. But I just go with opinions of friends and like-minded content creators who sort of align with what I'm into, and I make a decision based on what they think, because I have more trust in that,
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. It's exactly what I do. I usually, I know that Skill Up has his leanings towards PC. He's very PC master race. But he also, I think, is very fair. So, I think you find those content creators like ACG, like Skill Up, talk to your friends, and all that sort of stuff. We do all that, but I think for the casual gamer, they get a skewed opinion, and which is sort of sad to see. And I think again, I would like to see a return to form. Holly, jump to you. There's a lot that we said there, so wherever you want to riff off on that is completely up to you. But there is a decline in the media.
Well, it's really funny. You're gonna really hate this, but I was watching a video by somebody today that was talking about the fact that actually he said if you pay very close attention, the games media is actually leading, like, it's actually leading the charge in what's happening in the world now as far as traditional news media, right? And I think he's absolutely right. Like the mainstream, or the games media, right, used to be where you would go for all of this stuff, right? That's you would like want to find out about a new game, you'd want to hear somebody's opinion about it, you'd want to see the preview, you'd want to know, the all of the details about something to know if you're going to buy it. And just like Garuda, now myself, right? I don't turn to any of the games media, like traditional games media, to find out what I think this game is going to be about or if this game is for me, right? I watch content creators all the time, like even some that I don't generally agree with, but I think what a lot of people do, which is what I
Yeah.
do, is you watch, 2 or 3, the most, usually, right, that you tend to align with, that have traditionally reviewed games in the way that you would have reviewed them, good or bad, right? And you find that you are more comfortable with their opinions because you're like-minded. So you take their 2 or 3 aggregate thoughts and you kind of put it together. So their point was that, games, this is kind of the way it's gone for games media for a few years now, right? Especially since COVID. And now legacy news media is kind of starting to see that happening to them as well now, right? Because podcasts are all of the thing. Um, Not to take it into that direction, I just found that like tie-in really interesting at this point. But it's
It's true.
games media, what I truly wish, and I know they can't do it because it would be too much of an extension on resources and it would just be way too difficult for them to do it. But I would love for games media to have, you know, 2 to 5 people, depending on the size of the game, the budget of the game, etc., to all play it and come together and write an aggregate review, right? So then you would have, like, if it's a small game, you could have 2 people do it, right? But if it's a large game or, a new AAA, those kinds of things, you'd want a few more people on it, and it would have each person providing a portion of the review, or to provide their score and to provide their opinion of the game. That way, when you do go, that I would trust that when I looked at IGN or Kotaku or whoever we're talking
Yeah,
about, right?
I agree.
I would trust that more. And in that vein, you would probably find some people that in that IGN vein, right, that you found that you aligned with more often, right? So when you are reading the review, at least you're getting dissenting opinions all in the same place, and you would know, hey, I read Ty Guy Travis's reviews and I feel like those align with me more than the girl who reviewed Dragon Age, right? Because I think she gave it a 10 out of 10. So, like, you know what I mean? And that's fine. But at least when I'm reading it, I read her praise, his critique, right? And then find what he liked about it and then decide, here's a bunch of aggregate opinion that is from a group of people that are journalists, right? And I think I would trust that more.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a really great thing to do. I just don't see how they could ever actually, afford to do that. That would be
That's
way
my
too
thing. I was
difficult.
going to say something similar, but I think that would be like a sort of like a labor thing and a resources thing for those guys, particularly that, reviews don't necessarily generate the money for them. But the other thing that makes me, just quickly, the other thing that makes me the types of things that makes me lose faith in their integrity is like Starfield reviews, for example. Remember when a lot of these reviewers were complaining they didn't get these early codes, right? So these publications are clearly coming out and saying, "Oh, we didn't get review codes," and they're really disappointed, making a public scene about it. How am I going to trust your review now?
That's not professional.
Yeah, that's not professional. How now, when you finally do receive your code on release day, and then your review comes in the coming days, how can I have any trust or faith in that review after you came out and acted like a child?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation too, right? Because it goes back, it goes to the Avowed conversation too. It's just the fact that, when you have a job that is in the public eye, I guess even if it isn't, but particularly if it's in the public eye, then your private account, right? Because that Dan Stapleton, I think, reviewed Starfield, and then Stella has reviewed a lot of stuff, and she's popped off on her Twitter, and Dan's I mean, it's human nature sometimes, right, to do these things, but what that has, and it's difficult, I'm sure, for them, right? Because you're a human, right? You have your own private account, but follow you on your account because of your job, right? So then when we see them displaying texts or things that are written that where they're getting angry, or they're snapping at people on Twitter, or they're making jokes that people get a little too sensitive about, whatever the case is, it's the fact that now that also degrades the opinion of the overall media, right? Because you've seen this, and now you have a look under the curtain, right? and that's part of the point of professionalism, right? Like some of those old school guys, right? Like Cronkite, all of the old media before the days of internet and social media, right? There was more people gave them more latitude, right? Because they didn't know their personal views, because there weren't spaces for people to put their personal views out there, right? And because there was this just like high level of extreme level of integrity, right, around journalism on the whole, and they were afforded that because they didn't have people with a camera in their pocket taking pictures of them wherever, right? And or even just the ability to pick up your phone and tweet when you're drunk, right? Stuff like that, right? So
bad idea. Never do that.
True. So all of that stuff, right, plays into the fact that journalism on the whole gets a lot of flack, right? Plus, bias is way more prevalent these days, and it's expressed, and it is what it is, but that's fine. People are just now using the internet to find somebody who gives them opinion that feels better to them. And the other thing I will say real fast, and I'll shut up, is, IGN actually bought out like well over 50%. Somebody's going to fact check me on this, and please do, because I don't know the exact number, but they own tons and tons of these gaming website review sites now. So that also creates sort of a, a review issue, right?
Of course.
A monopoly issue. But I just want to quickly cut back, and then I want to jump on over to Donte, and then we'll try to wrap, I think, if we can. But when you were talking about doing those reviews and then cost, it's obviously not feasible for a bunch of reviewers from one site, or a bunch of people that work there from one site, to journalists to review the game together. Quite often that happens. You brought up Bethesda. Bethesda was a game that was being played by more than one person at IGN. They were all talking about it. They talked about how they all talked about it. They held a space about it. There was a bunch of them playing that game at the same clip, because quite often those larger sites get more than one code. So I actually don't think, sure, you're paying a person per review, and then maybe you could break that down. You could say, we're not paying this person, whatever it is specifically for that review. Or if you're paying by the hour, absolutely, like, those people are playing the game anyway. You say, are you playing the game anyway? Do you want the code? If you get the code, you're gonna have a section of this review, and we're gonna pay you for this section. And the total amount obviously doesn't go to you; it goes split amongst 3 people. You know, like, and if they don't like that, then get out of the industry. You know, but I don't think that is not doable at all. I think that is 100% doable, and I think it's a great idea, and they should do it. And just try it out, see how it goes. God damn it, Donte. How do you feel about the gaming media? You think they're hugely integrous? You think that they put out non-bias reviews constantly? This is stuff we've talked about. No, I'm kidding. I'm just making all this stuff up. How do you feel about?
No, I think everyone had some pretty good points. I guess the only part I'll kind of add to it. If I point to where I consider an issue started to become prevalent, I think is when we start transitioning from print media to getting most of everything from the internet, and it became an issue of how do you monetize its traffic, and basically companies buying out these publications become a thing as to, okay, well, how do you get the traffic to us, since people aren't buying, like, you know, before, if you were a gamer, you'd have to buy, you know, one of several gaming magazines to get information, right, before YouTube and all that stuff existed. So that was one way. And then so it mattered that you had a really good writer for someone to go ahead and pay for that subscription, for people to be like, yeah, I trust this particular site, I'm buying that publication. Now, the way people's brains work, especially in today's age of kind of like short attention spans and certain headlines that basically like draw your attention. And then the bias, like Holly mentioned before, is a little bit more prevalent, where you can clearly see, like in certain people's articles, where it's like, okay, you can tell that someone's definitely comparing this to another game that's on another platform that they prefer, right? And you think like that, what does that game have to do with this game? You know, why are you even mentioning that or the other platform, right? So since those things exist, I think it becomes harder for us to look for a space where, you know, those companies kind of course correct, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's about traffic for ad rev, right? And it's and if that's the thing that they're seeing, like, if we do this will bring people to our site, more so than, hey, people can go and say, I go to this site because they always give me really, really great reviews that seem pretty unbiased, etc. Right? Because like I don't see a lot of that. I see, like, when I see people talking about like reviewers that they like, they end up mentioning like someone like ACG and stuff online, you know, through like YouTube, versus like, I go to, you know, this particular website because they're pretty consistent and I like this writer. And I think that's sad, right? Because it's kind of like, as a journalist, I'm pretty for sure that's why you got into that particular business, that you want to be known for your ability to write, and if you're a reviewer, to properly break down a game and to have people feel like they can trust your opinion, that you're trying to give at least an unbiased take as possible, right? I like Holly's idea about like having multiple people like within a particular company, like especially from one as big as IGN. But I mean, even if I've gleaned any insight, where I kind of I've like heard conversations in terms of stuff that, like, you know, Ryan then will have, like, you know, what Stella's doing, and then what Havoc Rose is doing and stuff, like the things that they're working on. It seems like that would be really, really hard in terms of being able to have the resources to have multiple people work on, you know what I'm saying? Like that to me, that would be a better for the consumer to be like, hey, we're getting is a really good balanced approach. But I think those companies don't have the ability to do that, right? They got so many people doing, like, you know, so juggling so many different things. It'll be hard to get multiple people to both review the same game and then all put out, you know, like an aggregate score. But I think that helps us. But we've also shown with our propensity to be easily misled with the click based off of the headline, right? Whether it's for a negative or positive reason, they understand the psyche, and it's like they're not going to change it for us, right? Because the people who care about legitimate journalism they're not vocal enough, right? They're not saying, hey, I'm going to stop going to these sites altogether until I start getting them to put some trustworthy folks out there, right? They're not doing that. So I think unfortunately that ship's kind of sailed. And it's just going to be finding them like here and there. Like I like when I see something from Gene, you know, sometimes even Paul to a degree, but like I really like getting a review from like ACG, you know, for someone who's not from one of the dedicated shows. And also I just like playing a game myself, right? I look at the trailer, and if I think it looks cool and see like a little in-depth thing, I'm gonna make my own determination anyway. So it's kind of like, you know, maybe we don't need them as much before, especially if we consider that we think that a lot of stuff might be bias driven these days. So. Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm not for sure how we fix that one, to be quite honest.
And if the game's on Game Pass, reviews don't matter anyway.
Exactly. I was going to say, across all of these conversations that we've had today, there's a common thread that if you say like it's on Game Pass, and someone made this point, she was right, is that there's not as much of a monetary investment to try games out when they're on Game Pass. So Xbox games sort of get a little bit more, I think, for me, I don't worry about watching reviews too much because I'm like, well, it's coming to Game Pass. I don't really need to know if this investment is worth my money. So I'll just play this game when it comes out. And I won't really worry too much about what's being said in the media about it. So also that might be feeding into the industry, like that subscription service might be feeding into that. Could be a negative effect because I again, like Donte was saying as well, I think the written word and the that side of media is really important as well as the new media. I think having both is great. Like to see both exist. And I think eventually what's going to happen is one is just going to absolutely stomp the shit out of the other one. I think what you'll see and what we have been seeing over time is a lot of these old media sort of transitioning over to new media and sort of becoming that, you know what I mean? But I would like to see them sort of regain their integrity. And that's not something that, it's easily lost, but it's not easily re-won. So yeah, I'd like to see the clickbait bullshit go away because, you can guarantee we haven't had one for a month or two. So there's one due, it could be tomorrow, it could be the next day.
Yep, so, exactly. It'll just definitely come around an Xbox title. We can bookmark that.
Guaranteed.
So
yeah, it could be 9th of December-ish. It's due around about there.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Guys, honestly, fantastic show. Really, really, I think we covered some good ground just across the breadth of the industry and the breadth of what's going on. It was really good conversations. And again, just great to have, we all have differing points of view, which is fucking great. I love that. And I think conversations need to be had about a great many things without as I don't know if you guys like Piers Morgan, but I love seeing people scream at each other. It's fantastic. But as he says, like, it's great to have these debates, then go off afterwards and have a beer, and just, it's all good. And that's good. It's refreshing to be able to have adult conversations about adult topics, that actually I think matter to the world. So yeah, this is a really good conversation today. So I appreciate every single one of you and all of your points of view. And as I said in my Thanksgiving post, I do really appreciate all of you guys. And you guys in the chat, if you are here listening, really appreciate every single one of you guys coming through and supporting us every week. So thank you very much. Next week, we will be back live. Please do hit the like button, share us out, subscribe. We go live next week at 8 p.m. And the week after that, we'll do a pre-record. Garuda finally came back, extremely elusive. I saw your message to the other guy with saying that the show was trash and you didn't want to do it, but you feel bad. And no, that's not, that's not true. That's not true. No, Garuda works a lot like me. So appreciate you coming through when you can, man. So please let the people know where they can find you, what you're up to, plans for the future, plans for next week, what you're looking forward to playing, all this sort of good stuff.
Yeah, you still can't find me anywhere but here. So, and even that's quite hard to find, like you said. But yeah, real life's been like that lately. Been sick and all that stuff. But, it's part of life, man. I'm just glad to be able to come in when I can and glad that you still have me and stuff. Man, yeah, it's gonna be. I'm very torn about whether to continue with Stalker 2. I, like you guys, haven't really tried it since it had its big patch. So if I'll try it again after this big patch, and I'll see if it's improved any. But if it hasn't, I'm probably going to put it down reluctantly until it gets fixed up. So, and I started to play I have a few of the really old Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, and I bought them on Xbox because they're one of the very few games that are on the PC Xbox store as a Play Anywhere title. And I'm trying to, the more games that I want that are on there, I will actually buy them because, yeah, man, they need to really start, building that library out and adding more games as Play Anywhere. So I'll be doing a bit of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think they really do. They need to work on that PC app, which is great to see. But yeah, I'm the same with Stalker. I'm just going to wait it out. After this patch, I'll check it out real quickly. Probably put an hour in and see where it's at. And then I think I might wait until they've got everything sort of nailed. I think a year down the track. And I've got a huge backlog. It's not the only thing I've got that's here. Oh, don't say that. But I've got a huge backlog that I've got to, sorry. That I've got to go through. So I can wait. Donte. Again, fantastic. Great conversations. Thanks for coming through every week, man, supporting us. I know that with the daylight savings, your work time has sort of changed. So you're trying to get here when you can. You might be late a few times, and I might shift the show back a half an hour, see if we can sort of fit it in a bit more. I might talk to the boss and see what she says. But let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, what you're looking forward to, maybe what you're playing for the good stuff.
Yeah, another great show, man. Garuda, hope you get better, fam. Sorry that you're feeling sick, man. And Holly, you too. Bro. I know you were feeling sick, at least from like the Thanksgiving food. So I hope you're feeling better and on the mend. But Garuda's good to actually get to chat with you again and get you back onto the show, man. We missed you, brother. Yeah, you'll catch me here, obviously, and then you can catch me on the socials between the Twitter X and Blue Sky, Donte J. Moody. But yeah, man, looking forward to playing Indiana Jones, actually. So I know that's coming up soon. Give me a chance to take a break from my No Life of Starfield, which I got to say I'm very, very happy about, because I'm about to do something that I've been working on for this whole week in terms of how many times I've passed through a particular thing, and I'm about to max out on 10 in terms of, because that's the max that you can do. I'm very, very excited about this because it's been a very long, tedious thing, because I've been no lifing it, but it's going to happen tonight. So I'm excited, guys. All right.
You can only do that 10 times?
No. Well, so like each of the powers that you get, right? They can only be leveled up to 10.
Yeah.
So every time, so going through, so you can go through more, obviously, but they can be maxed out at 10. Fuck. So the main, like, I won't get all of them, because each run that you do, for some reason, it seems like it's hard to get 4. There's 4 temples. It's hard to find each run you go through. And so like each time, like I got some that are sitting on 9, and I got some that are sitting on like 7, right? So it's kind of weird in that regard. So the main one that I care about is the time dilation one. I'm gonna get that one to 10, and then I'll get a bunch of other ones to 10. And I think I'll stop caring unless Bethesda tells me that, like, you know, something cool can happen if you max out every single one. Then I'll go through it again until I max them all out.
That is wild, man.
That's kind of crazy.
Cool, man. That's a lot of dedication to one game, man. A lot of time spent.
No life in it.
I would be super excited if I could put that much time into a game, let alone if I had, and I got to the point where I was heading towards. So yeah, awesome, man. Let us know how it goes next week. Holly, fantastic to have you back on. Sorry about the internet issues that you have over there. Let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, what you're looking forward to playing, all the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm ThatBlueNumber everywhere. And I am going to finish the Call of Duty campaign probably before this airs, for sure before this airs. And I am going to jump back into Stalker, like we were talking about. And I'm kind of with you guys, right? If stuff is still a little wonky, then I might just wait until after I finish Indiana Jones, see where it is then, you know, kind of play hopscotch with it for a bit. I do have a very large backlog that I need to get through as well. Well, I don't know. Do you think you're ever really going to finish your backlog? Probably not, right?
No.
There are games that are just going to fall off, like, never mind, right?
Nothing laughs at you harder than your backlog.
Yeah.
Like, especially off the Steam sales, man. Oh.
Shut up. Buddy.
Yeah, and and I just had a bunch of games added to my Steam, and I don't know. We'll see. There's a list of stuff that I do really want to get to. But yeah, right after this airs, I guess Indiana Jones will be out, and the Game Awards will have occurred by the next show. So we'll have
that is coming as well. There will be lots to talk about. Yeah. Should be lots of fighting, lots of upset people on Twitter. So, I mean, there's always lots of upset people on Twitter. So probably won't change. But
you know what? I never knew that people like that are on Twitter. I never even knew that people like that existed until I started using Twitter. Like, that place is the biggest shithole you've ever seen in your life,
bro. Tell me about it.
Bro, it is an absolute cesspit of the worst common denominator you can ever find in your life. Like, you don't meet those people in real life. No matter where you go, where are those people?
The thing is it probably is the people you meet in real life. This is just their alter self.
Yeah, they don't say it to you in real life, right?
Then this is the problem. What you see when I'm on Twitter or anywhere is what you get in reality. Like, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's me as well.
Real and fake people, right? Unfortunately, there's way more fake people. So
if you have a secondary life where you're just an angry troll on Twitter, I feel like you're probably embarrassed that that's who you really are, right?
yeah, means you're not
Right.
happy about life.
Because you're not that in real life to the people face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have the fortitude. Yes.
The stones. I call it the stones.
I was going to say that, but I stopped.
All right, awesome. Well, look, guys, fantastic. Yes. Fantastic show, fantastic week. We'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Shout out to the